Hi everyone, thanks to this episode of the Nick Egan Times. On this episode, we have a sensational guest. We have the talented Brett Hellings. Brett is from the supergroup Hellings. Hellings is a supergroup band which has just recently released their incredible new single titled "Kill Me to Keep Loving You," which is available now. Welcome, Brett, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nick, for having me.
You're really welcome. Tell me, how's it all been going over there?
Everything's going really good, man. America's really great. We just actually got back from California. I was out in the Sunset Strip where I kind of grew up and played a bunch, cut my teeth on, and just out there playing the whiskey, which was nice. And we just released "Kill Me to Keep Loving You," which is great. A record that has been awaited quite a while. We made it back in the COVID era, and it's been a while to kind of release and get together and do the music video and do all of that. And we're really excited. We're getting a really good response from everybody. Nice, and about to record. Release another single in February, which is nice, and going to continue to release singles from the record that we did back in 2020. So
That's sensational. Yeah, I was listening to "Kill Me to Keep Loving You." I love the song. It's wonderful. It's well put together. Yeah, it's a
thank,
really good song.
thanks, brother. Yeah,
You're welcome.
yeah. It was quite a process to bring it all together, especially playing with some of the best in the world. It was the experience of a lifetime, really.
Yeah, tell me about that. Tell me about the obviously the other musicians that are part of it. It's truly remarkable how you've got such a super group of people in it.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. It really only happened because of the situation we were in with COVID, because a lot of the guys were always, those guys are always touring, and they're always on tour with some of the biggest bands in the world, the Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, and Alice Cooper and stuff like that. But during that time, there was nothing really going on, and I had a relationship with a man named David Davidian, who's Alice Cooper's tour manager, and he knew I wanted to kind of put a record together. I had a lot of material. I was itching to get into the studio, and he kind of used some of the resources he had and people he met along the way of a tour managing all kinds of different acts. And he put a group together that I thought would really work well together, personality wise, musicianship wise, people that really were just into the music, and that were maybe like tied to a certain brand in full. It was like Rich has been part of Guns for a long time, but he's always been kind of like the filler in kind of guy. But it's like, wow, maybe Rich would be interested in something like this? He's played in so many different bands, and going to Buck, who's also just a songwriter himself and plays in all kinds of different groups, and then of course some of the best session players like Billy and Kenny. He went to all these guys, and they gave him some of my demos that I had and some of the stuff I've done, and they were very interested in me. And they were like, "Yeah, let's go down and let's bring the best that we've got, best songs that we have, best songs you have, and let's throw it all in together and see what happens." And in 11 days, we got 11 tracks. It was a little over a week and a half. We got these tracks down, and then I went down to Nashville and did my vocals, and there you have it. It was something just so special. The timing, the people, and how everybody, just the camaraderie between everybody, and how everybody was so like-minded. To have something like that, and no one have ever met or ever been in the same room together, and for that to happen was spectacular. It was remarkable, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, that's mind blowing. What is your best memories of it so far? Like the whole process of it.
The best memories I would say is just getting to know the guys, and having and creating relationships with them. I didn't know that I was going to still be friends with them to this day and stuff like that. When I went down, it was more of like, okay, maybe I'm just get the record done, and get some really great music out of it, and see. And it was kind of a test for me to play with such elite musicians. So I was pretty nervous, and I went down, and I was like, whoa, can I keep up, or do I have the same work ethic as they do, and all that kind of stuff. But I learned so much from them, and they took me in, and they taught me so much, and that's what I really gained from it, besides the music that we get to now share with people and everything. It's just the relationships, and I still keep those relationships to this day. I get to text, these guys when I need some advice, or just to hang, or just to call them. And I've been doing a lot of interviews with Rich, and I just did one with Kenny the other day. And so just these new relationships, and with some of the best players in the world, and their stories and their experience is like it's endless almost, and someone you would really want to be around as a young, um, sort of young, musician trying to figure it all out. I think that's what that and the music, are the two things that are invaluable.
Yeah, 100%. You can definitely pick their brains, to obviously make yourself better as well, it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really, really, and we all did, and it was so cool how humble they are. They're the ones that always said, we're never stop learning too. We are learning even in this process. It's with those, it's a never-ending thing. It's music for life, and that's the kind of players, people they are. So I felt very at home with that because I've been doing the same thing for half of my life. So to be with people that have done it like 20 years, even more than me, was awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, take us back. I believe you started playing guitar at 14.
Yeah, right around 14. Yep, I got my first guitar. She's right over there, actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like I don't know if you can see her, but yeah,
Yeah, I
she's
can
a
see it. I can see
she got
it.
a hole in her because I didn't know what pick guards were at the time. So I would just play and play and play. So I've written everything on that guitar. So she's kind of like Elvis's or Willie Nelson's guitar. So but I started right around 14. I went to my first concert right around that time, which was STP. I was, my brother was really into rock and roll. I grew up in kind of like a non-denominational Christian family, so I never really got to know what rock and roll was. My mom and my dad tried to to keep me away from that kind of world, and I kind of got into it, and I got my first record from my brother, and we went to the concert and saw Scott Weiland. And once I saw Scott Weiland, I was hooked. I was like, oh my goodness, if I could do that for the rest of my life, I would be happy, and I could do it. I know that I want to do that. So I got to tell Scott that, which is a pretty cool little fact too, before he passed. And once I got hooked, I started playing guitar all the time and trying to figure out my voice with an accompanying instrument. So I wouldn't say the guitars were my first love. A piano is what I first started on when I was 9, but I used these instruments for songwriting and just to try to get some accompaniment and try to find my voice while I was listening to all these lead singers and stuff like that. So I went to diving into my rock and roll venture, and trying to find yourself. And church was kind of one of the ways that I could actually play the guitar and get away with it, So I went, and I was a worship leader for a while when I was young. But once I started to build a catalog of my own songs and stuff like that, I started getting into, gigging out and playing and stuff like that. So that's how it all started.
Amazing. And tell me, what was your inspirations of music too, like growing up?
Growing up, it started with the kind of the grunge movement, because it's in rock and roll. But when I was younger, my grandmother was very into Elvis and my first records, I remember first vinyl records were like gospel Elvis, of course, something Christian of something of good and of the Lord. But the gospel music and Elvis was such a character. So I remember him being like one of the first people I listened to vocally. And I remember my dad really liking Michael Jackson. I remember when I was 5, he would take me up and teach me dance moves. And I was always very, very involved in dancing and singing and plays and stuff like that when I was younger. But when I started to get into like rock and roll, which I really fell in love with, it was the grunge movement, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, all those sort of bands of the era, STP, Nirvana, of course. And then that's what kind of drew me to the guitar. And then that's when I really got into it. And when I got into them, I started going, well, who do they listen to? And then I got into the Stones and the Beatles and the Who and Jimi Hendrix and all those people that they were getting their influences. That Led Zeppelin, of course, the greats. And then I was like, well, who did those guys listen to? And then I went even back deeper in the jazz era or blues era, Cab Calloway or, Muddy Waters, Albert King, all the Kings, Freddie King, all that kind of stuff. And then I went deeper to see where the roots of this thing came from. And that was kind of like my musical journey. And then I started just playing the blues and trying to figure out why is this thing so simple to play, but so hard, And then I've realized it's all about soul and emotion, and really diving deep and believing in what you're singing and understanding it. And so that's kind of how I did it. It took me on this journey. And then you find yourself through all these different people. You just kind of grab little bits of things that you like, or things that really, relate to you, and you kind of add it to your repertoire of singing, and you try to mesh it all together so you don't copy anybody too much. You don't want to be you want to be your own. And so hopefully I'm doing that, and then that's kind of how I did it.
Yeah, that's really great. It sounds like you're definitely open-minded too. So it's really like, listening to all these kind of different genres and, great artists. It's obviously opened your mind to be on another level. So yeah, it's incredible.
Absolutely. It's all about the combination of something and something new. And I think that's something that is very, very important, especially in rock and roll. You don't want a copycat of something. You don't want something that's already been done. You want something new. You want it your way, how you view it. So I encourage young musicians, anybody starting out, or even musicians of my predecessors or whatever, contemporaries, be you. And that's a hard thing to find. But you can do it. And then if you do enough research, you play enough, and you give it all, you start to find yourself.
What's the best advice you would give a young musician coming up?
I was asked this question before, and it's kind of a cliched thing to say, but it's the never give up sort of thing. You're always going to find something through failure. You're always going to find something when times are tough. So that's really where what makes or breaks you, and not really the good times. So when you're paycheck to paycheck, even, or it's a money thing, or if it's a writer's block thing, all these things are coming to this head, and your song and your message, and then maybe an event within it. So as a songwriter, as a musician, as a singer, frustration is going to come, and all that kind of stuff is going to come, and the obstacles are going to come, but just love it and do not give up, and you will find what you're looking for. It really comes to you rather you go into it. So and that is, I know, something that a lot of people say, but it is very true. And then if you don't, you really do create something magical. And also you find about yourself, whether it's even musical or not. You find out who you are and what you're made of, and if you really love music, and if music can help you, guide you through that part of your life, and then hopefully it can help someone else through a part of their life because you went through it. So that's the universal thing that happens. If I can relate it to something that happened to me, and then someone else can grab hold to it, that's the beauty in it.
That's really, really good advice. What's the best advice you've received?
Here's where you sing the best. I was in the studio with Buck Johnson. He goes, "You're right here more than here." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I don't know. I think the best advice, I think maybe the best advice is the best criticisms I've gotten at certain times. Things that people have said that I didn't like hearing, and whether taking them and altering it or not altering it to fit who I was. I think that some of the things that, when you really don't have a good gig, how do you have a better gig next time, And I remember certain people comparing me to a lot of different people when I was on the Strip, and Jim Morrison's and Mick Jagger's and stuff like that. And I remember going, I don't want to completely be like that. I want to be someone new. So some of the best advice I've been given has been kind of things that were not advice, but were things that were happening that I really didn't want to happen. So to alter it and then try to figure out who I was really important to me. So so sometimes criticism is the best advice, if you could take it like that and know that, hey, I'm in this all the way. I'm not giving up. I'm not getting out of it. I'm just becoming who I'm becoming,
Yeah, marvelous. Yeah, that's great. What are you planning on doing any tours?
I hope so. I really do. We were talking about this actually on another interview as well. It's hard getting those guys all together that I just played with, and I really want that band, of course. I think that I could definitely get these guys back into a room to do a big performance, maybe on TV or a festival or some sort of huge performance. And but I have another kind of side band that I just was out in LA playing with, that are full of just as really, really good younger musicians, but coming up and coming. And I have a little group that if I need to go tour and get this music out there, I can do that. So right now we're just really trying to push the record and see what tours are really out there that we want, I'm shooting for the big ones, and which is getting in front of some really, really big people, and hopefully that can happen. So right now it's more about just trying to get having the band agree to it, seeing what the availability is, pushing the record, taking this year and getting it out there, and then see what kind of comes our way, because we're getting more opportunity the more people hear it. And but my heart is in live music, so I can't wait to get back on stage and do that as many nights as I can. But it's more about just kind of getting the music out there so people can hear it, and then hopefully getting on the right tour for us to get it out to the most people.
Wonderful. All right, Kill Me to Keep Loving You. Tell me about the song. What it actually represents, what it means. If somebody was listening to it, a new listener, why would that resonate with them?
Well, we kind of chose it because we thought it would resonate very well with people. We thought it was very relatable to everybody, I think, in a certain degree. If you're in, have lived life, and have gotten your heart broken, or gone through certain things, has been in a situation where something might have been too hard, but had to go, or something that you really love that had to kind of, dissipate, and it's hard to get out of. But if you don't get out of it, you're going to lose yourself within it. So it's kind of like, that's really what the song was for me. And I was getting out of, something, and it could be anything, whether it's relationship or it could be an addiction. It could be something that is just hurting you, and it's not right for you anymore, but you still love it, and it was a part of you. So hopefully this song is going to help people make that choice, or not make that choice, or maybe just relate with something like that, because there are things out there that can do that. And so I think that's where the relatability for me, I was like, wow, this makes sense to me when I heard it. It was a demo that Buck Johnson did. He wrote it, and he sent it to me. And I love writing my own material, so I'm really I'm not so much into like singing other people's songs, but when he gave it to me, I was just like, I have to do it. And he wrote it for somebody in particular that he thought that I was, comparable to, and I could really kill it. And so I was like, okay, let's give it a go. And once we did it, and once I sang it, it was like, whoa, okay, this is me. I can make this my own. And it did have like a more of a pop country feel when I first heard it. So I was like, I'm not really into that. But once you get Rich Fortus on it, and you get my vocals, and you get Billy Sheehan and Kenny and Tommy on it, it becomes a big rock ballad. It becomes this bigger thing that I couldn't see. So the relatability was there for me. And then all of a sudden, to make it sound that large was, wow, oh my goodness, okay, I knew what you guys were doing. They know, those guys just know what they're doing so well. And it was hard to trust them at certain times, because you're used to doing certain things, but who else are you going to trust but the best in the world? So I was kind of outnumbered, where it was like, just listen, just listen to what these guys have to say, and boy, did it work.
If you can share briefly, what is some of the advice they've given you, or that really stands out for you during that process?
I think we would always have like kind of a time together where we'd have, after our work was done, some bottles of wine would come out or something like that, and it would be chill time, and then just listen to some of the stories that they've had. Was amazing advice, which I can't I'll repeat all of them, but it was so crazy how much experience that they had. And one of the things that they didn't really give me much advice, but more encouragement. It was more like, listen, you can do this, we believe in you. And it was, wow, for someone of that status to say this sort of things, you start to really believe it. And it was more of like, not about teaching me, it was leading by example, and how they would just go into the studio and be there hours before everybody, before me, warmed up, ready to go, rehearse all day, 12 hours, right? However long it took. It was just the work ethic I was amazed by. I thought I was a hard worker, but I was like, when you get 5 of those guys in there, you understand why they are where they are, and how much they really just enjoy it. It's not work to them. They don't feel like they're working. They just feel like, oh my goodness, I get to play music. They still do. They still act like that. And that's like, wow, if I can end up like that, I'm going to be okay. So it was more just a lead by example sort of thing. I can't really specifically say certain
Yeah.
things that they, it's just like, wow, look at these guys enjoying what they love to do still at this age. You've been around the world, 50 times over and some of them. And that is what I want, that is the life that I want. And it felt like I was having it in that moment. So
Well, I believe you're going to get it. You're definitely on the trajectory.
I know, right?
What are your passions and hobbies aside from music? What do you like personally?
Well, when I was younger, there wasn't much. It was all music, It was music and running around amuck on the Sunset Strip and playing and doing all that. But recently, I've kind of gotten into making sure I keep myself in shape and stuff like that. I actually took up golf this summer. My dad's like a kind of a scratch golfer, and I kind of got into golf with him because he's so good, and it's a good time. A good thing to spend with your father, out in the golf course doing your thing. And I started to get good at it, so I kind of got into it. I got a lot of golf balls for Christmas, so so that was. But I kind of been doing that and trying to, I'm very, very into kind of movies into and certain things like that. Anything that inspires me to get into my songwriting, anything that I can gravitate towards or grab from my environment, I'm really into to write and do it the healthy way. Now I don't always have to do it the rock and roll way, go lose your mind and go get in a bad relationship or do this or do that. There's all sorts of ways of and there's sort of songs just there if you're looking for it, sort of thing. So I've been doing some of that. I've been working out and getting ready for tour, that kind of stuff. When tour calls, I'm going to be ready. So but most of my life, to be honest with you, has always been about music, and there's nothing wrong with that for me. Music has always been my number one love, and she's always been there for me. And but that sort of thing, just getting ready for the big show, that's what I'm waiting for.
Incredible. All right, tell me, if you were 18 again and you could change anything in your life, what would you change? It can be personally or professionally.
Ooh, what would I change? I don't know. I don't have that many things that I would change. I've taken care of myself a little bit better. So I've been getting into that sort of realm. Health, making sure that I'm ready and able to take on. I've been through a lot of different things throughout my life, just to get to the point where you can really enjoy it and you want to enjoy it at this point. So really trying to get healthy and in mind and centeredness and enjoy it without have to alter your reality at all. When you get to have your dream, you want to experience it in full force. So that is one thing that I've been working on. And I'm not saying that I'm a bad health. I'm good health. I just want to really be the best that I can be.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Your end game obviously is to go to the next level and be highly successful. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
Ooh, I see myself on a stage somewhere, or making another record with those guys, or some like them. I really do. I'm in for the long haul. I always have been. I made that decision when I picked up a guitar, or when I was very, very young, that this was going to take everything I had and never saying, all right, no, I'm going to take a break. And I was going to go for it, and it was kind of like, in that mentality at that time, it was like, I'm going to die for this. But now it's kind of like, now I want to live for it. It's weird once you switch over. It's like, now I'm living for rock and roll instead of dying for it. And so that is where I see myself. I see myself a better singer, a better guitar player, a better songwriter. I see myself maybe writing for certain people. That would be very cool. Maybe getting into production, maybe helping younger bands that, or maybe get inspired by maybe a new rock and roll kind of revolution sort of thing, and helping them kind of get their feet on the ground and get more good music out there. I really believe in that movement, or anything like a regenerate sort of thing like rock and roll needs a bunch of different bands to do it, just like the Seattle movement or something like that, So we need a bunch of people writing really good, putting everything into it, and most importantly, being real and putting their soul into it. So if I could help out anybody in that sort of way, whether they're inspired or I could do it personally, I would love that. So I see that in 10 years. I see the world being hopefully a different place with a lot more good music in it, and also more guitars in music, not so overproduced and technical and more soul, So that's where I see more soul in 10 years,
Terrific, terrific. All right, Brett, thanks for on the podcast. I do appreciate it. You're doing
Absolutely.
amazing. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nick. And by the way, I love your stuff. I checked it out, and you keep doing what you do. I really, really am impressed by you and everything you're doing. So thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, well, not as much as I'm impressed by you. So there we go.
Romance, there's a love.
There we go, brother.
All right, you have fun. Are you in Sydney right now, by the way?
Yeah, I am. I am. It's 9:30 in the morning here.
Oh my goodness, it's early. Well, you have a great day and everything, and thank you so much again. Okay.
Yeah, Happy New Year's too.
Happy New Year's.
See you, mate.